Hello, you lovely people. Obviously, it has been probably around about a week since I've done a YouTube video because I have just got back from Italy. But what that means is one thing and one thing only, and it's something I have spoken about a little bit on Instagram. But after around about 6 months of gaining size and going from about 68 kilo all the way up to 81 kilo when I got back home, I felt it was time for a mini cut. And for those of you who don't know, a mini cut is kind of a fast, aggressive diet where in essence we are just trying to rip some of the excess fat that we have gained off of our bodies, which essentially just gives us a little bit of a longer runway for bulking. As you know, I wanted to spend about 2 years gaining size, but because of a confluence of factors, some personal problems, some health problems and things like that, it's led to me gaining weight at a slightly quicker rate than I would have liked to. The original goal was to hit 80 kilo by the end of the year, and I've done that already in April. Was it a little bit reckless of me? Yes. Do I regret it? Not necessarily. Lifts have been going up pretty well. The level of body fat I've got, although I am not a massive fan of having this much fat on me, it's not excessive. And I feel like the 6 week mini cut that I am about to embark on, or have started today, is going to be the remedy for that. So a mini cut is slightly, well, pretty different to a prolonged dieting phase, right? Because in a prolonged dieting phase, essentially what happens is after around about 6 weeks or so, our metabolism or our basal metabolic rate will slow down quite a lot because the body understands that, we haven't got as much food coming in, and as such, it needs to conserve energy for vital functions such as keeping you alive, breathing, all these kind of things. So naturally what starts to happen in a prolonged cut is we start subconsciously being a little bit less active. We stop talking with our hands as much. We generally don't pace around the room when we're on the phone anymore. It's all these small little things that your body is doing to conserve energy. And what the mini cut aims to do essentially is to rip a load of that fat off and kind of negate any of them effects, or basically we stop the cut before those effects start to come in and before they become a little bit more pronounced as well. Now, from what I understand, and again, I'm not an exercise scientist, I am a coach, but from what I understand in reading the literature, there is pretty much minimal to no muscle loss when you execute a mini cut effectively. The general range we are looking for is a reduction of around 1 to 1.5% of our body weight per week. In my case, as I'm around about 80 kilo, we're looking at around about 0.8 to 1.3, 1.4 kilograms per week of the 6 weeks. And that ties in nicely to whereabouts I would like to be after the end of the 6 weeks. So I am aiming for 72 kilo. That is 8 kilo in 6 weeks. I am not naive. I know that I have come back from holiday. I will likely have had a lot of water weight on me. And naturally, in the first couple of days, as I start to reduce carbohydrate and overall calorie intake, a lot of that water weight is going to be flushed out. So I wouldn't be surprised to find myself at around about 77 kilo within a couple of days. After that, the next 5 kilo, I am aiming to be majority fat. Okay, we cannot preserve all muscle in a cut. I know that, even looking at the science where it says there's little to no muscle loss, I am expecting still probably about 15% of that weight to be muscle loss. But I wanted to discuss my strategy for doing this, how I'm going to execute it over the next 6 weeks, how I'm going to try and mitigate some of the ill effects, and what my general plan is going forward for this cut. I have always said I am a fan of a low and slow diet approach, right? Because it's more sustainable. You can enjoy yourself a little bit more. You are not feeling as shit because your calorie deficit is probably only around about 500 per day, which is pretty imperceptible if you are eating the right things. But the reason I've wanted to go for this mini cut is because, number one, I've seen how successful others, my clients included, have been when we've ran these aggressive deficits. Number two, I felt a little bit as though, although I'd been in this gaining phase for a while, I'd lost some of the edge and some of the snap and kind of sharpness in my routine and my overall levels of discipline as well. And I know that doing something as strict and aggressive as a mini cut will bring me kind of back to baseline with where I need to be. It sounds a bit weird to say. I've always enjoyed dieting. I've always enjoyed the fact that it's meant I've needed to eat more vegetables, that I've needed to be outside more, that I've needed to incorporate a little bit more cardio. I really enjoy how that makes me feel. And And as such, I'm really excited to kind of get cracking again with this cut. Now, the first thing I'm going to talk about is training. The number one mistake people make when it comes to cutting is they think, right, this is what's about to happen. I'm about to lose a lot of weight, and therefore I need to massively increase my energy expenditure and massively decrease my energy intake, which ultimately just leads to you feeling really hungry and really shit all of the fucking time, which is not what we want. So for me, my training is not going to change at all. It's going to consist of 3 45-minute weekly lifting sessions. It's going to consist of one pad session, which I've been doing for the last few months. And it's also going to consist of a run, which is something I introduced a couple of weeks ago, purely because I miss being outside and I love running as a meditative act, as a way of kind of clearing the mind a little bit. That's going to be my training 5 times a week. Sounds like a lot. You don't have to incorporate that cardio. I'm not doing it for the fat loss effect because it will be minimal. I'm doing it more for my own headspace and because I generally like to train that often. Now, as training is not changing, we know the one variable that does have to change is diet. For me, I am looking at running around about 1,450 calories per day, which is low and unsustainable, but the proof is in the pudding. The name, aggressive mini cut. Naturally, it's not meant to be sustainable. It's just meant to be a way of kickstarting things and getting me back to that position where I feel comfortable to build size again. I would not recommend getting into a mini cut unless you had spent a significant amount of time building. The lowest weight I got to in June last year was around about 64.5 kilo, and I'm now 81. I think that is a significant gain in weight, and I'm excited to see kind of where I have built some size because a lot of it is being covered up by fat at the moment. I would not recommend the mini cuts, and I'm certainly not out here recommending them to the general population. You need to either have a coach who knows what they're doing, like me, or you need to have a real solid understanding of exercise, diet, of knowing what to eat, when to eat, all these kinds of things, which hopefully I can clear up a little bit in this video. But this is by no means a general recommendation of the mini cut. This is just me documenting what I am going to be doing to kind of get myself into that position. Now, I have taken start and progress photos. I'm going to be weighing myself every single day. Diet is going to be 1,450 calories, and shock horror, I am going to be intermittent fasting. This may come as a surprise to some people who have followed me for a while because you'll know that I generally shit on intermittent fasting a little bit, and I still do for most people. I think for the general population who is extremely stressed with work, with kids, with all these kind of things going on, intermittent fasting is just another stressor and another distraction, really. I think a lot of people think about food a lot of the time when they're not eating it, and purposefully not eating for an extended period of time means the food is on the brain when we are working. It generally can distract us. So I'm not saying intermittent fasting is this panacea of health or of weight loss. I don't buy into any of the claims of what fasting does for you in terms of autophagy and all that. None of that is in lieu of calorie restriction. Essentially, you can run a deficit and get all them exact same benefits. But for me, it's a really good tool. Number one, because it means I have to worry less about eating 3 meals a day and what they're going to consist of, and I can pack all of my nutrients into 1 or 2 meals per day. Number two, it's a good tool for me because I have quite severe ADHD. I find a lot of pleasure and stimulation from food. And naturally, if I know that's completely out of the question, like it's a hard and fast, no, I'm not allowed to eat until X time, it means I generally won't think about it or worry about it until then. Again, everyone is different. That is not a blanket statement. But IF is a tool, okay? It's a tool that can work really well. Some people don't like it. I do like it as a tool. I don't think it's magic. So I'm going to be running an intermittent fast. I am essentially going to be having the traditional 12-8 eating window. And what I plan on doing really is probably eating around about 1 o'clock. Something relatively light, around about 400 calories. And then my evening meal is going to consist of a protein, some really high, like some cruciferous vegetables. I can't even say that. Cruciferous vegetables, high fiber foods, healthy fats. I'm going to be generally eating a lot of beef, low fat beef, so 5% mince, sirloin steaks, which I would consider a lower fat, rump steaks, things like that. Lots of veg, some fiber, and then afterwards I'm going to be having some yogurt with a shitload of fruit, a little bit of dark chocolate in, maybe a sprinkle of granola, or a Ninja Creamy. That's what's pretty much going to do me for the next 6 weeks. I think there is a huge benefit to making sure your meals look pretty much exactly the same day in, day out. It's one less thing to think about. It means you can prep them all in advance, and it frees up a lot of time, really. You're not spending a lot of time cooking. You're not spending a massive amount of time eating. It's more hours in the day. So I see that as a massive net positive. When it comes to movement, I am going to be increasing my step count because I've noticed the more I've pushed business and the more I've spun the plate of making YouTube videos and coaching clients and things like that and reading. Naturally, a lot of these things can't really be done on the go. And so I haven't been walking as much as I used to, which is around about 16,000 steps a day. I'm going to be bringing my step target to 10 to 12K per day. That's it, okay? Nothing excessive. If I fancy walking a bit more and I have some free time, I will do, but I certainly won't be doing it for the fat loss effect. It takes a lot of time to burn very few calories when you are walking. There are better ways to find yourself in a more prominent deficit than spending loads of time walking. But walking is fucking excellent. It's really good for you. Gets you out in the sunshine, gets the sun on your face, which I think is a really, really good thing overall. That's pretty much it, okay? This is not complicated. The problems start when you start really feeling hungry and cranky, and it's how you respond to them hunger signals. This would be what I would call a crash diet, okay? There is no getting away from it. I do not believe in them for the majority of people. I believe in them for people who are disciplined and people who have a healthy relationship with food, like myself. So it's hard for me to say I don't recommend it when I'm out here doing it because I think it's going to work so well for me. But you just have to have a really good understanding of yourself, of how things work, of what makes you tick, of what's difficult for you. And I feel like this is the right challenge for me at this time. I am going to be making a video a week, kind of updating everyone on how I've got on, what some of the struggles have been, what some of the benefits have been. And of course, I'll be taking weekly pictures, which I'm going to share on my Instagram as well. But I'm looking forward to this. I think this will be really, really cool. It'll be interesting to see how it affects lifting. I could feel the effects of it already in me boxing before, but that's because today I have kick-started this cut with a 24-hour fast. Not because I massively believe in them, but honestly, after a week in Italy, my stomach was constantly digesting really heavy carbs. And to be honest, I just did not feel like eating today. So I'm going to break that fast today. I'm going to break it with some steak, some eggs, some avocado, some quinoa, shitloads of green veg, and then I'm going to eat some fruit, yogurt, and dark chocolate tonight. And I'm going to see how I get on. But that is, in essence, my plan to try and lose 8 kilo in 6 weeks. So hopefully you've now got a good reference point for when the 6 weeks finishes. And we can see whether I've stuck to my word and whether I've walked the walk or whether I've been a massive fucking failure. But that's part of the reason I am making this public and putting it out there, because it keeps me accountable. So I will see you all for the next one. Hopefully that's cleared it up. If you've got any questions about this cut whatsoever, you can leave them in the comments, or you can send me a message on Instagram, whatever works for you. And you can check out my other socials in the description below. Ciao.